Example 2, we're going to factor negative 5t squared minus 21t plus 20. So there's no GCF, but remember we do want to pull out this negative sign first. So I'm going to pull out a negative, and that means I'm going to change the signs of all three terms because I'm basically dividing them by negative 1. So I'm just going to become a positive 5t squared, a positive 21t, and a negative 20. And that negative is going to stay out in front, and we're going to factor. So I'm going to start with my first term, 5t squared. So 5 is prime, so that's pretty easy. It has to be 5t and t. And then my last term is negative 20. So to multiply to be negative, I have opposite signs. And for negative 20, we have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 5 and 4. And you just have to try something that works. Let's try a positive 5 and a negative 4. And now we have to check and see if it works. So let's check our outside terms and our inside terms. Our outside terms we get negative 20t, and our inside terms we get 5t, and that does not add to be the 21 we need. So we need to switch maybe. Let's try 4 and 5. Okay, so we'll put the 4 first and then the 5, and we check, we get negative 25t and a positive 4t, and we add these, we get a negative 21t. So we haven't had this before. When you get the right number but the opposite sign, what that tells you is that your signs are wrong. So you have the right, whoops, let me fix that. You have the right numbers but the wrong signs. So I need to switch this. So this should become a positive 5 and a negative 4. And then when I come over here, I'll have a positive 25, a negative 4, and that'll add to be a positive 21. And so now it's factored correctly. Okay, let's look at example 3. The perimeter of a rectangle is 70 meters. Write the equation for the area of the rectangle using only one variable and factor this. So again, first thing I'm going to do before I even try and solve this is just draw a picture for me and to remind myself that this is length, this is width, it doesn't matter where you put it. And then I see the word perimeter. So how do you find the perimeter of a rectangle? You add up all the sides, or the shortcut is you have 2 L's and you have 2 W's. So that's the formula for perimeter. Okay, so I've drawn a picture, I've written the formula, and it tells me the perimeter is 70. So I can plug in 70 for my perimeter, and I get 70 equals 2L plus 2W. And I have 2 variables. I want to solve for one of these variables because I don't want to have 2 variables. So it doesn't matter which one you solve for. So let's solve for L. So that means I need to move this 2W over to the other side. And these are not like terms, so I have to write 70 minus 2W equals 2L. And then I want to get L by itself, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. And this actually happens to divide into both evenly, so I'm just going to break it up since it's going to make this much nicer looking. So I'm going to come up here, and I get L equals 35 minus W. Okay, so I've solved for L in terms of W, so I can say L equals 35 minus W, and I can only have one variable now. Okay, so that's the first part, and now it says write the equation for the area. So remember, area is length times width. So when I write the area, I'm going to say my length times my width. I'm going to put the W first just because it's easier when I go to distribute. And then my 35 minus W. Okay, now it says factor it, but it's actually already factored because we've pulled out the W. And so I'm just going to leave this right like this. Okay, let's look at the last example. It says the base of a triangle is 1 more than 4 times the height. The area is 9 centimeters squared. Write the equation for the area of the triangle and factor it. So let's see if this one can be factored. So we have a triangle. The base is 1 more than 4 times the height. So first thing, let's label the height. That's right here, that's h. And the base is 1 more than 4 times that. So 4 times plus 1 is this base right here. And then you just have to remember that the area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So I'm going to plug in everything I know. I know the area is 9. I have 1/2. I know the base is 4h plus 1, and I know the height is h. Okay, so let's simplify this. First thing I'm going to do is distribute this 1/2 through the parentheses. 1/2 times 4 is 2, so I get 2h plus 1/2. And you still have this h here. Okay, now I'm going to distribute the h through the parentheses here, and I get 9 equals 2h squared plus 1/2 h. Okay, so at this stage I have a quadratic. I want to remember we said we had to set it equal to 0 in order to be able to factor it. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So it'll be set equal to 0. And I'm going to have 2h squared plus 1/2 h minus 9 equals 0. Okay, now we haven't had this before. You have a fraction, and I could factor it like this, but to make it a little bit easier, it'd be nice to get rid of this 1/2. So the way to get rid of the 1/2 is you multiply by whatever this denominator is, which is 2. So I'm going to multiply all 3 terms here by 2, as well as the right-hand side by 2. That'd be easy, though. 0 times 2 is 0. So when you multiply, remember I'm multiplying all 3 terms. So this would become 4h squared plus 2 times 1/2 is 1 minus 18 equals, and 0 times 2 is 0. So now this is going to be a little bit easier to factor. So I'm going to come up here and try and factor this, trial and error. Okay, so we're going to start with our first terms, 4h squared. Now here I have an option of 4 and 1 or 2 and 2. It could possibly be either. I'm going to try the 4h and the h, and if I need to change it, I will. And then for our last terms, we need a negative 18. And I'm trying to find a combination that'll add to be 1h. So for 18, it could be 1 and 18, 2 and 9, or 3 and 6. Let's try 3 and 6. I'm going to put the 6 here and the 3 here. One's positive, one's negative. And let's see what I get. I get negative 12 and positive 6, which is not anywhere near 1. So let's switch this. It's not going to be a 6 here, because that would be, if I put a 6 here, that'd be 6 times 4, which is 24, right? And there's no way 24 and whatever this is going to add to be 1. So let's try a different combination. Instead of 6 and 3, you could try 9 and 2. And so our outside terms, we get negative 8h, and our inside terms, we get 9h, and those do add to be a positive 1h. So we have factored this.